that preparation we did the other day by taking out the spark plugs and putting in some Marvel Mystery Oil, all of that was to help the engine unstick. Most engines will seize because water finds its way into the cylinder. How can it get there? Through the carburetor. If there's nothing covering the carburetor and it rains on that vehicle and there's no hood on it, all it takes, I bet you I can stick this engine with this much water if I just poured it right into one spark plug hole, came back in a week. It will begin to rust. And we can't have any rust in the cylinders because that's the one that's going to get stuck. The rings onto the cylinder are going to get stuck. So we did. Because this engine hasn't been started, rotated in almost 10 years, we took out the spark plugs, I gave it several shots of Marvel Mystery Oil, and then we waited. I came back the next day, and this is what happened. And I'm telling you, I'm so lucky. You're not always going to get this lucky. This engine, I know it. There was nothing wrong with it when I parked it here, but sometimes you don't know what you're working on, and that's why I'm showing you how to prep it up. If you can't do this step, it's okay. We'll go to the next one. We're going to connect a booster pack to this battery, but you do not want to have to go through this dead battery. I've prepped it and I'm going to disconnect it. You don't have to take this old battery out. You don't have to put a new battery in there. Now, while we're here, we should take note of the markings for the polarity. You always go with the markings, the labeling on the battery. This is the positive side. This is the positive terminal. I'm going to take the positive from the booster and I'm going to connect it like that. And then I'm going to take the negative from the booster and I'm going to hook it up normal, like that. We do not want to go through a dead battery. It'll just rob you of so much power. Once again, I am so lucky. The starter is there. And I put that booster like I showed you. And all I have to do is take this one wire and connect it right there. And let's see what happens. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's go on to the next step. We're going to need some newspaper. Oh, a nice, good, big piece of chunk, something like that. It's not too technical. You're going to wad it up into a ball, like a marble. And then you're going to stuff that paper into the spark plug hole. I've got all kinds of plans for us. We're going to make sure that this compression is going to be right there when it's time to fire it up. Watch what's going to happen during the preparation. Come on. Before I stuff that piece of paper into that spark plug hole, trust me, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to give this cylinder, rings, valves, everything a better than average chance of building up the compression. We set the oil in once. That was for the overnight oil. Now I've given it a few more shots and now it's time to do this. Now the oil does more than just lubricate the engine. When it comes to the rings and the cylinder, it creates a very positive seal. Without the oil on the rings and the cylinders, we're not going to have decent compression. I take that paper, I wad it up, and I'm careful not to shove it all the way in. I pack it in there, and I want you to pay attention to the sound that that piece of paper makes when it comes out. 1, 2. Did you get to see and hear that paper? Now that one was a pretty good one. I did one over here and it just barely popped. When you do it a couple of more times, here, let me show you what else you can do. What you're trying to do is to smear the oil all around the rings, the cylinder, the valves, and it needs a little help. Here's a quick little way to help. You're going to go ahead and put some more oil, and then you'll do the next cylinder, and I'll do one more right now. I'll do that. I'll get this guy in a safe place because I'm going to crank the engine. And I got my gloves, and I'm going to cover that up, and I'm helping to smear the oil. Not just in one location, but the entire chamber. And let's see what kind of pop we can get. Now, I'm just going to do 3 of them real quick. So we're gonna make it a little pointy instead of just round. I'm gonna do 4 of these guys. I'll prep them and let's see what happens. I make a little water paper, I make a little point on there, and then I just lay it in place. And hopefully they all gonna blow this little piece of paper out. So I wad it up, I make a little point, and then I start the packing, but I don't quite finish it yet. I'm going to go ahead and put one more on that number 4 spark plug hole, and then I'll prep it. Once they're in there, right, we already put oil like 3 times, once yesterday. Now you have to be careful not to push this piece of paper in there. It's happened, no big deal, but you just don't want to get nervous about it. So I'm going to pack it. I'm going to push that paper right in there, and then I'm going to crank it over, and I hope we get 4 crisp pops. Here we go. On the count of 3. 1, 2. Pretty good example. These 3 pop pretty good. This one needs a little more oil and a little more cranking. We're going to get this engine running still at that $1 budget. Keep coming back.